Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 442. This is your guide to the geek side, and I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, reigning champs of Shakopee High School, who beat their rivals this week. I believe it was 35-7. So good job,
What?
Sabres.
My EGR Pioneers, of which I actually happen to be wearing a shirt. This was in a school icon. Was a janitor we had that passed away a number of years ago, so I got the shirt for free as an alumni event. But yeah, we kicked the butt of Lowell. That was a not a big local rivalry, but it was a real blowout. It was 42 to I think 6. Yeah, it was like, wow. I enjoy high school football. My high school, because I walked to it. I've talked about that in the past. I just walk up to the game, so that's fun. I think
my high school doesn't even exist anymore, Charlie. Now it's Lapeer High School because they merged them. So my high school is a page in time that no longer exists. The Panthers are gone. The Eagles of Lapeer East are gone, and now they are the Lapeer Lightning. So
what do they
schools are essentially gone.
What do they do with the building? They just blow it up.
Well, the old building I was in, my high school, was from like 1950. It was a very old building, and to resurrect it, the way it was, so they ended up, everyone went to, I think they now are 12, 10, and 11th grade at the Lapeer East High School, and they've moved kids around. Yeah, Lapeer is a shrinking community, as a lot of communities in Michigan are.
Very true. Yeah, because we're so industrial based that it can go like that. So, but here in Michigan, here in GR where I live, a lot of it is medical technology, so it's growing. So, which is nice. But anyway, hey, we didn't talk about the weather.
No, we did not.
I call that progress.
It's an improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we're back. Good to see everybody. I'm Charlie, your other host. And let's get this ball rolling by first of all talking about the fact that it is day 140 of the writers and day 170 of the actor strike.
Only 70, Charlie.
70. What did I say? Did I say that twice?
170.
100. It feels that way, doesn't it? Of the
does feel that way.
WGA and SAG-AFTRA strike. Naturally, we stand in solidarity with these great creative types being able to earn their livelihood. If you are at all able, please visit the entertainmentcommunity.org and give generously if at all possible, so that we can help these folks along while they are fighting for their financial livelihood. Also, we want to give special love to our Patrons or Patreons, the folks who give us the chance to create the extra content that we enjoy so much. You can visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite for a free 1-week trial at any level of our content. Check us out and see what you like. But in the meantime, give some special love to Best Bud Jamie Prinky. On our BFFs level, the awesome Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry. My friend Missy Merchant and Andy Milliken. We appreciate you once again. Patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Free 1-week trial. And if you like what you hear, stick around. And boy, Todd, did I ever love this cover. I was telling you in the pre-roll how this was a brown bag flat, what do they call it? Flat rate mail.
They got rate, open brown cover that you just slid. The book was slid in between. It didn't have an ending on it. Perfect to get rained on and manhandled by your postal carrier.
Exactly. But this was from September of 1988. Webb of Spider-Man, which is a title that, during Spider-Man's kind of heyday, he had in the 80s in particular, 80s and 90s, he had 3 core titles that ran: The Amazing Spider-Man, the only one that's survived since 1962, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, later shortened to simply The Spectacular Spider-Man, and this Web of Spider-Man title, which ran from 1985 to about I'm going to say 1999, and then things split apart. And like I said, the Amazing Spider-Man is the only one that has endured. So this one was near and dear to my heart. Spidey was invading an actual cult to rescue, I think it was Mary Jane's niece or something like that. I haven't read the story in years. But in the meantime, she was doing what she does because she's a model. So she's posing for this dude who, as I was telling Todd, was kind of modeled after a guy named Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid, but a guy who was an editor for Marvel
known
Comics.
Pornographer.
And apparently a Norn pornographer. Though, Mary Jane is dressed in a pink nightie. It's very tasteful, holding a rose. But what a weird cover, because it looks like, okay, that, it's very, Spidey's fighting to, defeat bad guys. And here she's just chilling out. And yes, it says, as Spidey battles the cult of love, his wife, Mary Jane, poses for a lingerie catalog. Vanna White, look out. Couldn't be a more timely reference. Vanna White. Wow.
And the photographer says cheesecake, which cheesecake obviously synonymous for showing flesh and titillating. So I really don't know what they were doing when they did this cover. It's like, hey, we're going to bring in a new crowd, the old pervy crowd, which will get sales going.
Old and pervy. I absolutely love it. Well, nothing is less pervy, but definitely as old as our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. She's down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, 123 years young, bringing us the latest scoops. So let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Yes, I believe your strike is ongoing as well. The senior citizens for more roles in adult industry is not working well. I know you've asked for more roles and they're just not happening, and your picketing is not doing anything to win your cause. So good luck, and good luck in your endeavors.
My. Yes, that's the roll, the jelly roll, the roll of a lifetime. Oh my gosh. So it's September now, so we're kind of dovetailing into spooky season, or rather the run up to. So we got some horror trailers to talk about. So I was trying to figure out this first trailer. Is this a spoof? Is this real? Is this really kind of where this is going? I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, so Blumhouse has made content for Hulu. They do it every year. This year, they're doing basically a horror comedy similar to that one we saw, which was Freaky, where basically it was Freaky Friday with a serial killer. And this year, something similar. We're getting basically the premises in the film. Jamie's mom, Kiernan Shipka, who was
Sabrina,
correct.
And Mad Men, yeah.
Pam, played by Julie Bowen from Modern Family.
I thought that was her.
Is terrorized by the resurgence of the Sweet 16 killer, a mass maniac that slaughtered a group of teenagers, girls in the 80s, with the help of her friend Amelia Mawema. Jamie travels back in time to 1987, teams up with the then teen version of her mom to try to stop the killer. So this is like a time travel to stop a killer. It's kind of a cool new idea. It's comedic take. And in the opening of this little trailer, it showed kind of like a history of the Blumhouse killers. That's what made it kind of clever, because I mean, they've had so many in Blumhouse throughout time. I mean, you've got the Purge folks, you've got the guy from Freaky, you've got several different other killers that have been part of Blumhouse's cast of horror films, and they've become very successful. So this movie, it's called Totally Killer, taking an 80s term. The guy has a mask, kind of like a Ken doll, I guess the best way to put it.
I think it's a little bit more Johnny Bravo, which was not that 80s, but still,
yeah, more like that type of mask. And this is going to be out October 6th, so this is getting right into spooky time. Comedic horror films, either hit or miss, but I like the cast. This could be a lot of fun.
And this is going to be on Shudder, or it's going to be in the theaters?
Hulu.
Oh, Hulu, gotcha. Yeah, because October 6th, I know because I saw a trailer again last night, is The Exorcist.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why that is now October 6th instead of October 13th, which it was its original release.
You mean Friday the 13th?
Correct. Yes, in October. How exciting.
My. Well, yes. It's funny, we were talking kind of roulette of streaming services, and I think, once Loki is over, we're gonna say goodbye to Disney Plus for a little while, but Hulu still pops up as being something viable. They end up having bits and pieces here, a little bit more variety, where we were talking about Disney, we're like, when do we even ever turn it on anymore? It's not
for us, Charlie. We are not kids with young children, or parents with young children.
you can't have Frozen on for the 50,000th time when there's no one there who wants to see it. So, definitely worth turning in on. I mean, I love Blumhouse. They've really, I won't say revitalized the industry, but it's certainly been a spark in the last few years. That has really made it stand up and notice. So, all right, I saw a trailer for this one last night because I'm going to talk in a little while about how we saw The Nun 2. And naturally, because it's a horror film, there are trailers in front of it that are corresponding. So this is Thanksgiving with very little to be thankful for. Now, the trailer starts out nice. Was it one of these? Are you coming home? Yada, 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 this time of the year. And then somebody's face gets stuck to the side of a freezing tank, and then you see the big axe. And so we've had the killer turkeys in the past. There's been killer Christmas in the past. Is this the first like real celebration of the holiday itself as a horror movie, not something specific like generic generic killer Christmas, killer Flag Day, killer Valentine's Day? That's a good one.
My Bloody Valentine was a big one. Yeah, we don't have like a Memorial Day weekend killer. We don't have a Labor Day killer.
Well, there was the first Purge was the 4th of July, or maybe the most recent one.
Sure. Yeah. It makes sense. America, it's something iconic, but yeah, Memorial Day and Labor Day, Arbor Day, typically not days that inspire people to go out and kill. I guess that's a good thing.
Right.
We want less
Flag Day, middle of June.
Well, you could stab someone with a flagpole though. I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's very pointy.
Yeah.
The premise of this movie is interesting. If you remember, there was a unique experiment in film back in 2007 called Grindhouse. Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez basically paired up to kind of celebrate those movies from the 70s that were grimy, a little over the top. And you had the two Death Proof, and then I believe you had Planet Z. I'm trying to remember what the name of the Rodriguez one, where it was like zombies were involved.
Right.
It was kind of a crazy mix. And in that movie, they had like intermission. So they showed trailers that were not real. And Eli Roth did a trailer that was called Thanksgiving. And it was
That's awesome.
Exactly. And this is what the output is. He finally made this film. And it's kind of very fun. The fake trailer's out there, so you could watch that as well if you want to, back from the film. But this one's kind of fun. The killer is dressed up like a pilgrim. He's got a pilgrim mask, which is very fun. It's got some decent actors in it. Patrick Dempsey is in this. Let's see. Addison Rae, Milo Manheim, Jalen Thomas Brooks, Neil Verlock, Rick Hoffman, and Gina Gershon. So decent actors. It looks like it'll be a hoot, and it's going to be in theaters out November 17th, which obviously right before Thanksgiving. I think I'd move it up another week, like November 8th or something like that. So you get a couple more weeks as people are getting into the season. You're still getting some horror fun. So I don't know, because it seems like it's going to be a very thin season.
The horror season of Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
Or the running over. Yeah. The running over of. So, oh man. Well, cool. Yeah. I feel like, it was funny. I looked, because we were at the movies last night, and we hadn't been since we saw the Meg 2. And it seems like that was a long time ago. So, August was a real dearth for us, in our summer movie wager, which, as I had mentioned, Todd was victorious for the first time. Shizor will be making his way to the schizophrenic weather of Minnesota. But yeah, in August there was just really nothing to speak of.
Turtles was the big film, and that did very well for what it was.
What did you say? Hurdles?
Turtles. TMNT.
Turtles.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Turtles,
it didn't get into the top 10 because I got a big old goose egg.
Well, no, August is hard. It's a smaller movie. I mean, and the good news about that movie, it actually had a realistic budget, so it's going to be actually successful. So movies that made more than it did, actually, like Little Mermaid, lost movie money at $300 million. Indiana Jones is the biggest flop of the year because they spent $1 billion.
The Flash.
Charlie,
the Flash.
No. They spent so much more money on Indiana Jones and the Flash that it totally is losing more money. They spent $100 million more on Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones only made $60 million more.
That is not the math that I saw. But
from a profitability perspective, the Flash only cost like 150.
No.
The Flash performed worse. Indiana Jones only made $70 million more, but cost another extra $100 million.
Oh, the Flash, I heard, lost over $200 million. Anyway.
And Indiana Jones also lost over $225 million.
No, yeah, they would do
because they had double the budget. I mean, it cost $350 million to make that movie. $700 million total with marketing and everything like that. It was a complete,
I really thought they were going to pull it out. So, well, so here's this next story pokes a hole in my plan to get rid of Disney Plus, because what if the animated MCU program is coming back around Christmas? So if Loki comes out on October 6th and it has 8 episodes, that gets me to November. And so, well, I guess I could get one. Well, no, I can't really even get one.
The real question is, do you have Hulu Plus without ads?
Yeah, I have the bundle.
Are you keeping it?
I'm not sure.
Because if you keep it, you get Disney Plus for $2 a month. It's not worth canceling for that much.
I don't know. I feel like I want to send a statement. Here's my statement, Disney.
But there's going to be more Star Wars. There's going to be more Marvel. And you're a diehard, Charlie. You're a Marvel zombie.
There's not going to be any of this stuff. But, I mean, with the ability to add and drop, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, this series, which we got back in the end of 2021, had Jeffrey Wright as Uatu the Watcher. And it was really focused around, and rightfully so, because it makes it more accessible for a broad audience, happenings of the actual MCU as opposed to the comic series, which many of us old timers read in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even all the way up to today, which was just little alternate takes on, well, what if they zigged instead of zagged? So we've got a partial episode listing, 9 episodes.
I've got the whole list. You have to actually click the Twitter link. It has.
At any rate, we'll at least touch upon.
I can tell you what I will tell you what they are, because I have it.
Hold on. Let's not keep them thirsty now. I'll give you 3, and the rest can be a mystery. What if Gamora?
That's no fun. We're going through them all.
Shush.
We're keeping it live.
What if Gamora killed Thanos? What if Captain Carter finds the Hydra Stomper, which was a tag from the end of season 1? What if What if the Tesseract landed in the, I'm not even saying this word, Confederacy before its colonization of America? Hold on. I'm doing the jump. I got this. Do. What is that? What is the Houndesauce?
It's got to be a Native American tribe of some
there you go.
I don't know if I've heard of them before. Yeah.
What if Hank and Janet fought the Red Guardian during the 1980s? Like that. What if Yondu delivered Star-Lord to Ego? Oh my. What if Happy Hogan saved Christmas from Iron Man 3? What if Wanda had grown up watching musicals instead of sitcoms? Oh boy. That one's for you, Todd. What if Odin and Hela had faced Wendigo? And what if the Avengers had fought Surtur? All right, you got some good ones here. So that's another 9 weeks. Damn you, Disney. You got me. Anyway, I loved the show. It gave us Captain Carter.
Wenwu, Charlie, he's the big bad from Shang-Chi.
Gotcha. So anyway, this gave us Captain Carter, which is a favorite of April's, which then we also got Captain Carter in live action. April and I are actually doing an autism walk in a couple of weeks. She's debuting that Captain Carter. I'm going to do my Captain America. So I love that character. I love this series. Great takes. Sounds like this has some more satirical takes, though. We did have the What If Thor Was a Party Animal episode of season 1. But it sounds like we've got a little bit more. I mean, Hogan Saving Christmas and the musical episode. So I don't know. They're keeping a good balance, but they've got some edgy stuff too. I like Star-Lord and Ego, and then the one about the Native Americans. That, without a doubt, sounds pretty interesting. Introducing a new character. So yeah, I'm down with this. Disney.
I was excited about What If previously, but now, quite honestly, I don't really care about what ifs in the MCU since everything is canon. I know that sounds weird because in the Marvel comics, canon. I just as I get more of this, I don't want to go delve deeper into the MCU, to be honest. Like more in like what if, because it's like I don't know, something about the MCU. For me as a fan of the comics, I want to go into storylines of the comics, but obviously that would confuse watchers of the main content. Totally get it. I mean, I don't think What If really resonate with a lot of people except for the big nerds anyway. So I'm not sure how successful this was. I love the animation style, and I thought some of them were
Yeah, I
cool, the
agree with
Marvel
that.
Zombies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if this is going to move the dial for anyone else. This will probably be the last season for this show, is my guess, just because quality over quantity is Bob Iger's new
Yeah.
thought process
Well,
on
I
all these
mean,
things.
to me, you can certainly see the direction in which they do it. You know, the masses, I won't say the unwashed masses, but the people out there, obviously more familiar with MCU than they are with all of us. You know, we're the TOS fans in Star Trek. You know, that they're
Yeah.
less interested in catering to. They're more interested in catering to people who've been watching since 2008, since there's been the MCU. So you get, while they're tilting in this direction. So, but I also understand what you're saying too. I kind of straddle both worlds of it. Being someone who's not been a voracious comics reader in the last 20 something years, but the 20 years prior to that, absolutely. I knew every nook and cranny of Marvel that was going on. So that's why I enjoyed the comic series some more. But I still found interest in this. But again, with streaming, you don't know what causes something to get renewed, what constitutes something being popular. It's minutes, it's this, it's that, it's blah 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 blah. So there's really no way to know. But I think 2 seasons is fine, because otherwise, you're right, it could go on forever and it could just be ad nauseum. So yeah, I think when something, and I hate to say it because Strange New Worlds just did a musical episode. When something does a musical episode, are things kind of getting closer to the end?
I mean, jump the shark. Yeah, you are running out.
Yeah.
I mean, of these episodes, I'm curious, which one are you most excited for, Charlie? Probably the Captain Carter, just because it's a character that
I
you enjoy.
already closed the list, but yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So myself, I think the one that's going to introduce a new character, that's kind of neat. It's essentially not tied to anything else, so it can go anywhere. And it's in an era that is going to be very interesting to see what would that be like, especially introducing a new character. And will they do anything with that character to make it canon? We are in the multiverse of madness. We've got all this things happening. I know that door's supposed to be closing, so we'll see what happens and what becomes like the new canon going forward.
The door is closing. Well, speaking of doors that are wide open, and now I see exactly what you're talking about, because I've been hearing about this. I have a friend who purchased tickets for herself and her daughter, and probably her husband as well, for the Taylor Swift concert film. But it's encroaching into spooky time, but nobody gets in the way of Taylor Swift. So just like you had mentioned, we are seeing Exorcist Believer getting pushed off of its Friday the 13th October debut back a week to avoid a 1-to-1 with T Swift, and that's a smart move. Right now Taylor Swift is a juggernaut, rightfully so. She does good things, she takes care of people, but she's making all kinds of money. So you know what? It's the American dream. But yeah, that is now it's an AMC. I've been hearing about this concert movie. It's almost 3 hours long. Being produced by AMC, but also being sold to non-AMC theaters, so that they're not dummies. And it's let's see here. Yeah, tickets are $20. Oh, excuse me, $19.89, 1989, when she was born. The 1313 for children, I don't get, or whatever. And IMAX and Dolby is more. So this could be $100 million couple of weeks out of this deal. This could be an actual blockbuster concert film, which I heard somewhere. I was listening to some kind of show. The last one of these was it a Justin Bieber or somebody that was maybe 75
like
million?
Yeah, 80 million, something like that. Yeah.
I'm going to put my smart money down on this. This will be an actual blockbuster. I think this will hit $100 million.
Yeah.
So
actually, they're now projecting it potentially 150 million, which is just crazy.
I think, and again, I am obviously familiar with Taylor Swift's music. I myself am not a listening to it kind of fan.
Not a Swiftie, Charlie.
But I admire what she's accomplished. She has Beatled this deal. She is the Beatles of the 21st century, in my opinion.
Interesting. I think from a success point, and she does have fans. Like, there are musicians say that she's a great songwriter. I know most of her albums, it seems like there's like 8 songwriters per album when it comes out.
She
experiments. She does different things.
I wouldn't say that was strictly analogous, but as far from a success standpoint,
it's not uncommon either. I mean, Beyonce probably has a team of 1 billion coming in to write all of her songs.
I mean, there's never really going to be, and maybe it'll be different 100 years from now, another Beatles. There's not going to be anybody who captured things. I mean,
Correct.
name me anything in popular music after 1964 that doesn't owe something to the Beatles anywhere.
Well,
I
before
just
that, I mean, before they could say Elvis was a
Right.
huge influential. I mean,
Right.
Elvis still
Right.
resonates
Yeah.
today, and
And yeah, Elvis fed the Beatles and all, R&B before that. But anything when the Beatles existed, and it just fingers everywhere. So
well,
anyway,
and then they ended. And Taylor Swift
yeah,
she's so young. She started at like 13, did
right,
country, went to pop and everything. I mean, she could go
right.
on for another 30 years and not
I
slow
know.
down. And she does
Right.
4-hour concerts and does like 55 songs. Who else
Yeah,
does
what
that?
you know who she is? She's Bruce Springsteen, because he still does 3-hour, concerts, and he's my dad's age. He's in his 70s, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway,
She's impressive. She definitely is. Not for me. I'm not going to spend 1989
No.
to see this concert film. But it's
Yeah.
so weird to do a concert film right in the middle of when she's still touring. It's not
Right.
she's not done touring, so it's very weird.
Well,
It's
I
big.
mean, I think it makes perfect sense to me. There are people who can't afford
Correct.
her shows, but they can't get
Yeah.
tickets. They can't go.
Absolutely.
It's not feasible. So this is the alternative. And
Yeah.
that was it was my friend Tamara, who's a very old friend of mine, who said, she fought for a long time trying to get tickets so she and her daughter could go. She's like, you know what? This is the answer for me, because I can go see it in the theater. I can have sit there and have a pop and take a bathroom break, whatever it is, and it's quiet. Sort of comparatively, I'm sure it could erupt in singing.
No one's
along
ruining.
and
Well,
whatever.
I'm assuming, Charlie, everybody will be singing along in that theater, so it won't be
Right.
quiet.
But don't you think it'll be quieter?
Maybe. I mean, once you
Yeah.
get everybody singing in a small space with walls
Yeah.
that is echoing off the walls,
Yeah.
you're going to have
I don't
kids of
know.
all ages, very young kids. And it's interesting. This is a big one where I see AMC's behind this. AMC
Right.
essentially pitched the deal.
Behind it, but it's
And
wider.
there are other
obviously,
theaters that are they actually commissioned another company to distribute this to smaller theaters.
Right.
Because if they didn't, they would be in violation of a very old congressional act that said theaters cannot distribute movies, their own films. That broke up like like every studio had a movie theater chain, and it was like they
Right.
only went to those. So this is different, but considering
Right.
AMC is $4 billion in debt, the industry of movie theaters is bad. They're going to have to do more of these type of events,
out.
sports, musicals, live
Right.
theater, and broadcast them, and it will bring people
Yeah.
in. Because your point,
Oh yeah.
no, like Hamilton, if that had gone like right after, I mean, people can't spend $150 on a ticket. They just can't.
Well, and more to the point, there weren't tickets
available
to be
Yeah,
purchased. Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's
Yeah.
it's not that you couldn't afford it. Maybe it was, but yeah, if you actually can't go see it.
Yeah.
So anyway, long road around. The Exorcist Believer, which is bringing back Ellen Burstyn in a lead role from the original film, which we just watched that recently. We were talking about it with knowing that this was coming up. We rewatched it. It had been a number of years, and it's still a classic. It's amazing. So I'm looking forward to this, and I know we'll be talking about it during Shocktober, Spooktober, the segment that we do, the long running our version of Blocktober that we do during October. So yeah, this should be great.
Rocktober. There's so many tobers.
Rock Schlocktober. All right, I'm tackling this next one because it not only is one of my favorites, but it also dovetails right into what we're going to be talking about in the Thunderdome, because it is the same creative force. The Warriors, which was a movie in 1979 based in a quasi-futuristic New York City, where gangs ruled everything. It wasn't really that futuristic. It looked like it was totally contemporary. But you had weird, wacky gangs where you had guys who wore suits and another team that was dressed up like a baseball team, but they were like mimes because they had white faces. The Warriors, I'm talking about. Absolutely awesome movie. The creative team was Walter Hill, and this was actually, it was based off of a graphic novel, if I'm not mistaken.
A book from 1965, so a novel.
There you go.
Graphic novel, yeah.
Oh, I swear it said graphic novel. Like even in the director commentary. But anyway, Lin-Manuel Miranda getting his fingers into this, bringing it to Broadway. This is fascinating, absolutely fascinating to see how this would translate into a musical environment. Because while the movie itself was filled with music. And like the film that we're going to talk about, which was Walter Hill's subsequent film a few years later that we're going to talk about in the Geek Easy, it didn't feature musical performances within where that film does. It was very musical, but it was a rough and tumble, highly stylized, street gang film. Yeah, you had Todd, you've seen the film, I assume.
Actually saw it like 3 years ago for the first time.
I also had not seen it as a youth because, and again, it came out in 1979, but I saw it about a decade ago. Fell in love with it. I've got the disc, so I'll break it out every once in a while. April doesn't care for it, so I'll break it out every once in a while when she's not around, and check it out. But it was the source material. Yeah, it says right here, details still unknown, but if it sticks to the book material, there will be some perplexed audience members. The Furies, the baseball team gang that I just mentioned, is not from the book. That was part of obviously Walter Hill's and his team's their screenplay. But seeing the take on the story without them will stand out. I find it highly unlikely that notable aspects of the film that people are familiar with wouldn't find their way into an interpretation. That would seem weird to me.
Well, it depends on what they get the rights for, Charlie. If they get the rights for the novel, or do they get rights for the movie? Because if they get rights for the novel, they'd have to get the rights also for the movie to use any of those creations in it. And it sounds like they've only got the rights to one. So, which would also be the music would be something also they'd have to deal with, because if they're going to use any of the music from the movie, they have to get the rights to that too.
Well, but again, the music from the movie was they were interstitials. It wasn't like, hey, there's a band performing this, and
if it's going to be original, if it's going to be all original songs like a Hamilton, then they can do whatever the hell they want.
I would find that to be more like, it does mention here the book is a grimmer tone than the film, and the film wasn't graphically violent. It was kind of of it, it was kind of its time implied, but it wasn't bloody gore or anything like that. But yeah, it has the overall theme of the film. If you've not seen it, and I would highly recommend it. It is available for rent. It does not stream anywhere. I did just check recently. It has to do with a gangland meeting where the gang leader who is running the meeting is assassinated, kind of off screen by a ne'er-do-well gang member played by David Patrick Kelly, who is from Detroit, and an Irishman, obviously, so very near and dear to my heart. And then this gunman says the Warriors, it was Cyrus was the Warriors shot him, and then all of these 100,000 gang members chase the Warriors as they try to make their way back to Coney Island. And if you're familiar with the greater New York area, this big meeting was up in the Bronx. Coney Island is down on Long Island, so they have 100 miles to get home, or 50, 100 miles, they say right in the film. So it has to do with their journey through the night to get home and various districts that they go through. Again, tying back in with film, we're going to talk about districts. I love it. It's fun. I would recommend it. So this should be interesting. I'm curious if it could touch the success that obviously we saw with Hamilton, but then again, The Heights, In the Heights, was another musical film that Miranda made more recently. So I don't know, how did that one do? Do you recall? I saw it. I enjoyed it. I just don't know. It came out during COVID, so
it was one of those things that came out in COVID. I think it was out in theaters for a short period of time, and then it went to Disney Plus. I don't think it blew any. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. So anyway,
nobody's singing the Heights songs as I stroll down the street.
Heights. Exactly. Dun, dun, dun. Well, the thing isn't about this. Nobody's singing anything because with the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, nobody's doing anything. So it's very hypothetical as far as any of this stuff. So anyway, I will be very engaged with this when it comes out. If it's made in some kind of concert film, if it travels, I don't think I would get April to go to this, even if it like, hey, Broadway Grand Rapids presents the Warriors, like someday way down the road, because
that would be interesting.
Yeah. But that would be not. But we have local, we have local stuff that comes through the DeVos Performance Hall. I've seen stuff there. So anyway, okay. So that's it for the news. We are out of here. Time to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. The Geek Easy awaits to talk about things we're enjoying, so let's get to it.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So we start off what we've been geeking out with. I'll start with something that's on its third season. I've become a huge fan of Only Murders in the Building. Season 1, all about, three unlikely people becoming friends. Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. They live in this historic building.
Wait. Are you talking about The Power of Friendship?
Yes, that could be joining them together.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. So these are 30-minute episodes that are great, and every season is about a murder in the building. It has to happen in this building, or they can't call it that. They basically
I was
going to
say, wouldn't people want to be out of this building where all these murders are finally happening?
We don't deal with the reality in the situation, Charlie.
Right.
I'm sure it
Not
doesn't.
on.
Murders in a building probably don't affect your property or your rent.
I guess not.
It's New York.
Jago, is this on Netflix?
It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu.
There we go.
Yes, and considering the cost of rent in New York, you probably want more people to die, so more apartments will become available. Yeah, you got to control the population.
That's what other people die, and you know what? For the property owners, releases those potential releases a rent controlled property.
Correct.
Double or triple the rent. Boom.
Exactly. Yeah. It's good for murder is good for everybody. It stimulates the economy.
Murder is good for the economy. Less people.
Yeah. So season 1, just getting the team together. Season 2 is really getting them in their stride. You had changes in their situations, some different love interests gone awry. And then the third season, I am halfway through it. It's still live right now. So not all of the episodes have dropped. It drops weekly. And at this point, we've got some just new introductions into the world, and this one's really focuses about basically a musical that Martin Short is producing. He's the producer behind it all, and a murder. And it's very funny because also I'm blanking on his name. Handsome man, never ages.
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin plays Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd.
So handsome Paul Rudd is in this, and he's hilarious. He plays this kind of not washed up, but kind of like what's the best way to put it? Kind of reminds me of a Jack Black type of guy who had a bunch of hits, but then kind of on downstream of his career, and he played
as an actor. So
he was in his big movie was called Cobra, about a cop who turns into a cobra. And I just love it's just perfect. It's very funny.
Do you remember that Saturday morning cartoon about the kid who turned into a Trans Am? What the hell was that called?
Yes, it was called Turbo Teen.
I thought that was great. I remember the one where he initiated his transforming, but he was in the shower.
Yes.
And so it was like, no, there's a Trans Am in my shower. I know. Hey.
I couldn't remember if it was if he got wet or if he got hot, but something triggered it, so it was out of his control.
It's when and of course as a teen, you have hormones, and so you get overstimulated, turn him into a Trans Am. I don't know. You know
if
what?
You lived in Texas, you would be a car all the time.
Guess. I'm going to put this out to the social media community at Secret Friends U, or at the C3, or at T Extra over on X. Give us some background information on Turbo Teen. Let us know if it's streamable somewhere so that I don't have to look it up, because that'll take me 3 seconds and I don't want to do it.
Yes. So, yes. So getting us back to Only Murders in the Building. It's been really good. And Meryl Streep is also in the season, so she's wonderful too. There's romance abounding. There's craziness going on, and I love it. They're going deep, and really you're getting more and more information about these characters. It's really fun. They're putting on they're all. If you love Steve Martin and Martin Short, it's fantastic. Their relationship is fun, and Selena Gomez is actually decent in this. And I was so worried about she'd bring the show down, but she does come about, and she does kind of balance out their antics.
And that's a weird one, because with those, former Disney, because what was her show, The Wizards of Waverly Place, Disney, where she got her start? Was that her?
Why not?
Wasn't that her? I think that was her.
Probably.
So you just never know. April and I were talking about this yesterday. These child stars, they just, their lives can be such a mess because of how their parents screw them over and blah 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 blah. So it's
become Scientologists and now are convicted of certain crimes.
Yeah. We don't certainly need to talk about the individual that we're referencing. Okay, moving on. What do you got?
So Ahsoka, so we missed a week. We had a break, so sorry, folks, for a lack of entertainment. But
that's funny. I when we sat down today, I'm like, why do I feel like we've not done this in a long time? Yeah, because of Labor Day weekend. Your mom was out, and I had other stuff going on. So now we're back.
Yeah, so I dropped an episode of the spinner rack just in place, which is fine. People get entertained one way or the other. We have stuff banked. So Ahsoka, 2 more episodes have come out since we last discussed the first 2. And the big news is now episode 5 will apparently be in theaters, which just seems like a weird approach for the 5th episode. Are they doing 5, or are they just giving us?
Well, hold on. Before we go any further, are we spoilers, non-spoilers? What are we doing?
I think we can do light spoilers because this will be a week out after episode 5 comes out.
Very good.
So,
So light spoilers.
yeah.
So we won't necessarily reveal the big drop at the end of episode 4 because that's very significant. And so Todd, we talked about this before we got rolling. How are you enjoying this as a lightly initiated Rebels fan? Because you said you did some homework, you felt prepared. So yeah, I mean, what are your impressions? I obviously am very deep in, very familiar with it because again, I do a show about Star Wars with our partner Mark, so I'm very deep in. But you're not as a casual fan, but you're more of a casual fan than perhaps Mark and I.
I know more than probably the unwashed masses who only come in for like a Mandalorian. So I know it. I keep in the loop on it, but I don't. I'm not passionate where I've like got to rewatch things or I'll watch it. I don't need to watch it all. I can watch key episodes and be fine with that. It is interesting now with coming in with 4 episodes in. I see what this show is totally. This is Rebel season 5. It is nothing other than that. It is one long story arc. There are no standout episodes. It is essentially telling one movie, which is fine if that's what you want. But once again, no episodes truly stand out. They just kind of blend together, and it's one story, which I feel like the Disney shows, except for like The Mandalorian, where they do the standalone episodes, it all kind of blends in. It's like,
but even with The Mandalorian, there is an overall arc, but you're right.
Correct.
They do break it up where this is simply much like Star Trek Discovery, and those episodes are like, this is this season's mission, and every episode that we do is going to be like the season 2 in the Red Angel. Oh, well, we're chasing this, and then we're going bit to bit, and every episode drives forward this big plot that culminates in the end of the season, which is what this is all about. And obviously,
correct.
So the question is that are you? I think it comes right down to, do you enjoy the type of storytelling, or don't you? Because if you don't, I would say it's potentially not for you, though I would not scare anybody off of it altogether. But yeah, especially as you said, if you just turn this on for the first time and your familiarity with Star Wars goes as narrow as, I've seen the prequels, you still don't know who Ahsoka is. If you've never watched any of the Clone Wars, you don't know anything about Ahsoka at all. If you've not watched Rebels, you don't know anything about why any of these characters are important. So it's niche-y in a way. But my question is, how are they judging the success of this? Metrically, how is it doing?
Well, this is actually the first show where they've said like how many people, households have watched it. They said this is the first time Disney has done this.
Like traditional ratings.
And they are, households. They said 50 million people. And none of the streamers want to release this information because that would tell people, so we can create a rate based on that, which we could give residuals for. They don't want to do that. So they do not want to tell us thing.
They're going to get stuck. They're going to get stuck.
I don't know from anybody, and I really can't tell anybody who is not into it because I don't really know a lot of geeks who are not into this. That can tell me, is it successful? Is it working for them? I will say I like some of the new characters. The production value seems very strong. This feels like the most Star Warsy thing they've done. There's space battles. There's
that's it. Episode 3, big time.
There's action and adventure, which is fun. There was a mysterious character. We don't know who it is, and it turns out, that Sith is just a bag of gas. Which it's what do they call him? A Furshin?
That was a bit more of a spoiler, but that's okay. It was a minor functionary. Yeah, it wasn't like that one. Of
it wasn't Star Killer. It wasn't somebody from something else. Yeah.
And that's something that really drives the bus with these storytellers getting things going. Like, we have this mystery character who wears a helmet, and they get everybody talking for 2 weeks. Is it so and so? Is it this and that? And you're right. In the end of it, this character was slain and exploded into a gas. So it was the skunk Sith or whatever.
Which is fine. It's okay to bring in characters that die. Star Wars did that all the time. It's Boba Fett. We met him once. He died. It's like his story is done. But no, he's not. No, it's not.
We gotta drag it out that much further. So, I don't know much about it being in theaters. And again, we'd not been in theaters in a while. We just got our tickets this morning to see A Haunting in Venice, which we're going to be talking about on the show. We're gonna see that, I think, next Friday. Yeah. But I didn't see anything that suggested that Ahsoka episode 5 was going to be in theaters. So I guess I'll have.
There is a link right there, Charlie. trivia that I put in the
Oh,
flow. It says episode 5 at
really?
theaters.
Well,
Yeah.
you'll
So
have to put that in
Go
the flow.
Fobo's doing it, and you can see if there's screenings in your neck of the woods.
Oh, well, I will do that while we're talking.
Yeah.
So you can wrap up your official thinking.
No screenings in Metamora, Michigan. For some reason, I put that zip code versus mine. But other than that, so screenings. Nothing in my area either. Okay, that's fine.
I'm looking right now.
But the one thing I just feel like I think a lot of people are saying, there's a Poochie effect of this show, which is if they're not talking about Ezra, or if Ezra and Thrawn are not in the thing, people got to keep talking about them.
It's very Poochie.
And even though I've watched very little bit of Rebels, I just don't feel the importance of Thrawn. I don't. The ones that I watched, I'm like, yes, he's a good tactician, but he still was part of the Empire. And if he runs it, their big heavy hitters are gone. They're smaller forces. Is he really going to change anything?
Wow. I'm sorry, just a quick sidebar. No screenings in the Metro Detroit area. So it's not in Michigan. If it's not in Metro Detroit, it's not in Michigan. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll continue to watch it. It's entertaining, and that's good. I do wish that Ahsoka wasn't the most stoic and boring character on the planet. She says a lot of things and doesn't really get me excited.
She's not grumpy. She's just very like, and from the character that we were all familiar with, and again, it goes back to familiarity. Yes, if you were familiar with her first appearance, which was in that faux Clone Wars theatrical release from the summer of 2008, which when you saw her for the first time, she was a young kid, and blah, blah, blah. And she grew, and her character type didn't change so much where she became kind of like this
sour and sour,
the very strong silent type, just kind of hanging out. So yeah, it's and we know I have a lot of fondness for Rosario Dawson as an actor. I think that she could play this character in any way that
they don't feel like the same character though.
So.
She doesn't feel like she's playing Ahsoka. She feels like she's playing another member of that race who happens to be a Jedi Master. I don't feel like this is Ahsoka. I just feel it's Rosario Dawson doing.
Well, again, in point of order, she is also not technically a Jedi, simply a Force practitioner, but whatever. Because
but she's training a Jedi too, which is like
I know
train anybody. Yeah.
Well, she's again, she's pretty much all that's left because she left the Order, but had all this. All she did, she just didn't get her diploma, but she's a Jedi. She has all the skills, but she doesn't have her class ring. That's where she's short.
And the other two are. Well, we have one Jedi.
Jedi. It's
classically trained, and his Padawan. So,
yeah,
they keep saying there's not a lot of Jedis, but they keep showing up.
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, if there were 10,000 Jedi at the time of Order 66 and a galaxy of hundreds of thousands of star systems, as Obi-Wan described it, how could there not be survivors in any nook and cranny?
Good question.
Of course, there are definitely going to be survivors.
Sure, we'll find out.
If there are 100 survivors out of 10,000, it sounds like a lot, but I mean, comparatively speaking, because I mean, the galaxy was lousy with Jedi back in the prequel times. There was one on every street corner. There's too many Jedi.
Too many Jedi. So yeah, episode 5 is coming out when you probably are listening to this.
Yes,
so we'll see how this goes. It's 8 episodes long. And this may be the last thing we get before we get Filoni's movie that is incorporating all their TV shows.
There's nothing else on the docket.
I'll be curious in the theater how that does, because once again, it's like seeing Marvel's Endgame, or if those were just TV series, right?
Exactly.
Just imagine that. I don't think it's going to drive a lot of people to the theaters unless you're like a hardcore fan.
Yeah, but again, on the other side of that coin, there are a ton of hardcore fans. So
correct.
People will see it, but as far as what Infinity War Endgame did, I think that was lightning in a bottle as far as genre stuff goes. That is very tough to recapture.
You got casual people to care about the Marvel. Right now, the Disney Plus TV series are not getting casual people to really get engaged unless it's Mando.
Yeah, it doesn't. So, all right, moving along. I'm going to do a couple of quick hits because I actually consumed some things where I was on just a long break where I just felt like I wasn't watching anything. But after years and years, like a decade of pressure from Tamara, my very close friend who I was already talking about, and her husband, Jason, this is their Star Trek. AMC's Breaking Bad, which has been on Netflix for a decade. The show ended, I think, in 2013, ran from 2008 to 2013, if I'm not mistaken. I had tried to start watching this show 3 or 4 times, probably within the last 10 years, and then went off to do something else, just didn't catch. So, we're getting into an era. It was funny. I had lunch with my dad this week, and my dad is in his 70s. He's not really tied into the entertainment stuff like we are. So I was talking to him a little bit about the SAG-AFTRA and the writer's strike. And I said, buckle up. There's not going to be any content next year. So I said, get ready to watch all the stuff that you said, boy, I really should have watched that at some point. And that's what we're all going to be doing in 2024. I mean, let's put all our cards on the table. There's not going to be a lot of content next year. So anyway, Breaking Bad, finally got to watch it. It is 5 seasons of between, I think, 8 and 13 episodes, depending on which season it is. We are now at the end of season 3, and April is totally hooked. I'm really engaged. Todd, have you seen the show yourself? Have you watched
Charlie, I watched this like 5 years ago, maybe,
Gotcha.
No, actually probably longer than that. And it was funny when you say that. My mom saw the show like 5 years ago, so you're behind my mom in the collective.
Well, I mean, it's
of this series.
It's not a contest. I think people find things in their own way.
Correct. And not to get spoiled and have the show ruined for you that far after everything. It's impressive.
It's true because, again, headlines are pervasive. This show even kicked out a sequel with Bob Odenkirk's Saul Goodman character. And I have loved Bob Odenkirk since the Ben Stiller show in the 1990s, because he was part of that troupe. That troupe, Todd, I'm sure you're familiar. Ben Stiller had a very short-lived Fox show. It was him, Janeane Garofalo, Andy Dick, Bob Odenkirk, and I feel like there was a 5th person. It might have just been the 4 of them, which is, talk about a time capsule. I don't know. I have that on disc. I don't know that it exists anywhere else, but it was one of those, like in the early 2000s, it was out on disc and I snagged it. But anyway, enormously enjoyed the show. If you're one of the other 8 people in the world who hasn't watched the show, highest recommendation. It's out there on Netflix, so go check it out. Just today on AMC, Todd's favorite Walking Dead character, Daryl Dixon, finally has his own program, Dirty Daryl. Yeah, so we got the first of, I'm guessing 10, because 10 is the magic number.
So it's out already? I thought does it debut tonight? Or is it just dropped?
It could be. I mean, we still have, I was telling you we had the Stars AMC bundle, which I canceled, but it expires in like a week. So then I'll have to resubscribe to just AMC to see the rest of it. But we'd seen trailers for this in recent weeks. But Daryl washes up on the shore in France. He's on top of an upside down rowboat strapped to it. You don't know why. No. And then he proceeds to go ashore. He's in France, and some things that make France apparently a lot like the United States or America in this era is that everybody is killing everybody for supplies. There are walkers, but in this case he walks into a shopping mart where walkers are full of acid. I mean, it's nutty. So Todd, tune in.
I've heard it's like the best thing they've ever done with this character. They said, why didn't they do anything else with this character after all this time? Because he was on the show forever, and actually beyond Carol, not a lot of character development beyond, he's no longer Merle's buddy.
Will say that and Merle died a long, long time ago on the show. Yeah. I will say that this looks to run the risk of being kind of a carbon copy of The Last of Us. It's got that same, he's coming along, he ends up at a convent. There's a kid there. This kid is the Messiah. And even April turned to me and said, is this going to be another like Messiah kid thing happening? And I'm like, probably, but you know what? At the very least, and Todd, I'll take a page from your book. It is a different take on essentially an undeveloped character in a completely foreign setting, literally.
And he gets to shine because he doesn't have to, share the limelight with other three other fan favorites.
He doesn't have to play second to Maggie or Rick or Michonne or whatever. So it's worth watching. I do kind of rankle a little at the genericness of the savior bit, but whatever, we'll see how it turns out. So Todd, do you have any intentions of checking this out?
I mean, I have a service that's cheap that I can watch it through, Philo. It's $10 a month, and it gets us like all of the cable channels without sports and news. So I have AMC, and I can watch it there. So
and that has on-demand programming. You can just
does, and and I'm unlimited DVR, so I can go crazy and record every episode of House Hunters Alaska if I want to.
Oh my! Oh, that's a show that my in-laws enjoy. They like the Ice Road Truckers and the Jules family. What's the one with Jewel the singer? Her family, Alaska something or other.
Yodeling yokels. I don't know.
Cletus Jewel has a show. Yokel? Her family does. Her family does.
How do I not know about this?
Google it. Everybody at Twitter on at Todd on X. Let them know. All right, and then finally, we went to go see this movie, being like, "Yeah, it's a sequel. We've totally seen the first one." So we went to go see. This is our first movie of the horror movie season, and again, we're back to the movies because we haven't been in a while. It was the sequel to The Nun, so Nun 2. Absolutely have not seen the first one because we walked in and I'm like, we're like, okay. So it's Tacita Farmiga, who we know from American Horror Story. She's the sister, much younger sister of Vera Farmiga, who is in the not The Conjuring. I mixed up The Conjuring and the other one. It is The Conjuring.
Insidious.
Insidious is Patrick Wilson and Lin Shaye. Yeah. So anyway, absolutely. But it has to do with demonic possession. It looks like we're in Europe in the 1950s. And you're getting Tacita's character, who is also a nun, and then a male character who she has nun-like feelings for, if you catch my drift, and demonic possession, yada yada yada. You get you go to a boarding school where one of the teachers is, I realized this, it's a female teacher who has a daughter. The young daughter is the main character, but the female teacher was Lucy in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that. I was like, because she's a dark-haired girl, very just standout kind of features. I'm like, that's who that is.
She had a face?
She had a face. As opposed to having no face, which it happens. I would say this was pretty average. Tons of jump scares, bloody scary, yada yada yada. Not graphically horrible, but it was pretty. You know what? It was not a bad start to the spooky season.
So it was a prequel, right? Though, so you could essentially get on board. No,
it was a sequel. It was really pointed out.
Was the first one done in the 30s?
No, it was immediately prior to this film because it was the same characters.
Oh, for some reason I thought that the first one was in the future, and this
no. You know what? You might be mixing up because I thought there was a movie 2 or 3 years ago. The Nun. La Llorona, but The Nun itself came out in 2018, which I thought we would have gone to see it. But yeah, The Curse of La Llorona was another nun movie that came out maybe
another nun horror film. How many are there?
I don't know. Aren't nuns scary? Everybody thinks nuns are scary.
Well, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I've heard stories.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, my mother did Catholic school. Yeah, my mother did go to Catholic.
My son went to Catholic school, but they really didn't have mean nuns. So
yeah, well, this day and age, probably not the case so much. But
beating up kindergarten is probably not a smooth move, anyways.
Exactly. It reminds you of Kramer taking karate. So anyway, to wrap this up, I would say very run of the mill. Go see it. Keep your expectations low because it's not really going to blow your mind. So with that. We are out of the Geek Easy Todd. Time to get out that Air Qantas app. The Land Down Under awaits. Hologram Tina and the mutants are waiting for us to entertain with a tale of a film from years back. So let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
We're sitting in the Thunderdome. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. Thank you so much, Tina. You always allow us to do so many good things for you. It's our charity work. We went to jail. We had to, for complaining too much. I think my complaints about Ron Friend's a good friend of the show. Some other artists and people, Ron Howard, I think they finally decided to throw me in.
It was your cavalcade. It was your crusade against Mark Bagley, I think, is what really got us.
We're in hate jail, and we had to get out, so we had to do
hate jail.
Public service there. So we go. So with that, thank you, Tina, so much. And a public service announcement as well. Going back to what we talked about in basically our rumors and news.
I'm listening.
Charlie was right. I did research versus Charlie and I both listening to, podcasts about box office, and The Flash has lost more money than Indiana Jones, but
Biggest
Indiana Jones still, considering how many entries there have been in that series, to lose that much money is just really sad for Disney.
And it hurts me the most because, again, Indiana Jones is a project. I was down on it. I was up on it. and I love it so much. And then to see it fail so hard, it's like, it's like watching one of your own children, or in this case, a grandparent.
Absolutely. And, I think I enjoyed the last film, but you know what? At this point, we'll see what happens with the Indiana Jones of the future. But you know what, Charlie? We're not looking forward. We're looking back to
way
this week. This movie called Streets of Fire. This was a movie that I was listening to on, once again, a podcast. 90% of my information comes through the We Enjoy podcast, which I talked to you about, Charlie.
Which we both enjoy. We both enjoy.
Exactly. So it's a great podcast because they do like the news and things like that, but they also break down movies and things, which is great. And one thing they mentioned, and I couldn't find the episode, Charlie. I'm still waiting to find the episode where they talked about this movie, Streets of Fire. And I'll just give you the breakdown. Streets of Fire, 1984 American neo-noir rock musical, directed by Walter Hill, co-written by Hill and Larry Goss, described in the opening credits as a rock and roll fable. The film stars Michael Pere, Diane Lane, Rick Moranis, Amy Madigan, Willem Dafoe, E.G. Daly, and Deborah Van Valkenburg. The film was by Universal Studios, and it cost $14.5 million, but only grossed $8 million. There was supposed to be a trilogy of these films, and
oh my god,
not. Yes.
My goodness.
There's supposed to be like fire and water and like other elements, apparently.
Fire and water, meant to make you their daughter. Doo-doo-doo-doo. That was not Wilson Pickett. It'll come to me.
So I would have not have thought to watch. I mean, they talked about this movie in their podcast. I'm like, well, it sounds interesting, and it seems like one of those lost gems. So I watched the trailer.
Right.
The trailer got me in. I'm like, Charlie, you got to see this thing, and we should talk about it.
And I rented it because it is available for rental, but and then of course for purchase. But it doesn't stream, so you got to chuck in your $4 whole dollars.
Sure.
And again, I think I may have also watched the trailer. And you see, Willem Dafoe as pretty much a proto Green Goblin. Rick Moranis. I don't know that I grabbed that from the trailer, but right away I'm like, wow, Rick Moranis. Now I will tell you right off the bat, this came out in the summer of 1984. Other competing films were Ghostbusters, which also had Rick Moranis, but this came out the same day as Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, my favorite Star Trek film, which did 5 times the business in the same amount of time.
You were torn, like, what will I see?
Yeah, right. Well, put yourself back in the summer of 1984, and then Todd, you and I have hotly debated 82 versus 84. I'm on the 84 side, you're on the 82 side, but 84 gave us, we had a Star Trek movie, an Indiana Jones movie, we had Ghostbusters. I know we had more. I'm just drawing. There were so many iconic things that came out that summer. And yes, I know 82 gave us Star Trek 2 and blah, 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 and a lot of other different stuff.
Poltergeist,
exactly. Yeah. But I had never heard of this film. It is. And again, Walter Hill gave us The Warriors. We were already talking about that. And I wouldn't say The Warriors was a great film of my youth, but when I saw it, it really clicked with me. And I'm not going to lie to you, while this film is not technically good, this really clicked with me too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, again, April and I watch almost everything together. So we watched this a week or so ago. And I think she tuned it out in the same fashion that she tunes out The Warriors, which I totally get. But this was great. This was largely filmed in Chicago, which is awesome. So it's kind of a Midwestern vibe.
But the L train and the feet below on the streets.
Yeah. So Lower Wacker Drive. You remember from the Blues Brothers. This is definitely Lower Wacker Drive. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But the obviously there were sets and studio work done wherever it is that they Studio City or somewhere probably in LA. But the kind of iconic backdrop in general reminded me of what became Tim Burton's Gotham City, my opinion. I definitely got those very strong vibes.
Yeah,
of the
very
stuff.
thin. Kind of the streets weren't big, so the city felt full in a lot of ways.
But it also had that iconic look where at night everything was wet, even though you didn't see it rain until much later in the movie.
Charlie, it's a sweaty city.
Everything was wet.
Fire, so
the sun was never out, so it was always gray. It was either gray or raining, but not both at the same time, because when it was raining, it was brighter. And then at night, everything
no
was
rainbows.
No rainbows, exactly.
No. So let's talk about what this movie is about. So essentially, this movie is it opens basically a concert is happening. Ellen Aim and what was the name of her band? Ellen Aim and the Fire.
Because I have the soundtrack to this available on Amazon Prime Unlimited, which is how I get my music, and I'm sure many other, your Spotify and Apple Plus and whatever it is. Couple of great songs, a lot of trash, but the first song is called Nowhere Fast. That is what opens the film. And it's great. You see in this community, I was reading, this community is much akin to New York City divided into districts, because you see at the end of this, just to paint the picture real quick, there's a big concert. Everybody is there. It's like this is the seminal event, but then a biker gang comes in, they trash things, they snag Ellen Aim, who is portrayed by an extremely young Diane Lane, snagged by Willem Dafoe, whose character's name I'm forgetting, throws her over his shoulder, and they drive off.
His name was Raven.
Raven. Well, that's the great bad guy name. There is a character who witnesses this, owns a diner, portrayed by Deborah Van Valkenburg, who was from The Warriors. She was the chick, the mall in that film, and also had a very not noteworthy appearance in a guest role in Deep Space Nine. Star Trek, because everything comes back to Star Trek. Everybody knows that. Writes a letter to her brother, who lives in another district. He's in Bayside it's everything side. It's Seaside, Townside, Upside, Downside.
For one of the areas that had a different name, like the Holdens or something like that.
The Battery is the place where all the bikers live. So she writes a letter to her brother, who is Michael Pere, Eddie of Eddie and the Cruisers, another iconic 80s film, in my opinion, because I watched it growing up. And he is he's the Mandalorian. He is the Mandalorian of this film. He comes back, sees his sister right away in the diner. There's some toughs in there. They're causing trouble. He kicks the shit out of them in like 5 seconds, steals the one dude's car, and says, "All right, sis, lock
Charlie,
up. Let's drive home."
You've passed over so many excellent things.
Oh, please, let's Tarantino this shit. Go back.
So the opening sequence, the film's called Nowhere Fast. So when my first feel of this movie, I didn't even look at the soundtrack. Didn't look at who did the music, because I knew this was going to be heavily music inspired because it was a rock and roll fable. So the Nowhere Fast song, when I heard, I'm like, this sounds like Meatloaf and Bonnie Tyler blended together, holding out for a hero. Meatloaf vibe, something else. And I looked, Jim Steinman wrote a lot of these songs.
That's him. That's the Meatloaf guy.
Yeah, he's Meatloaf's composer and songwriter for the most part. So I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And the crowd's just clapping and clapping. The band looks like she's from 1980s. The band kind of has that look too, but everybody else is from 1950s, and their apparel, the cars. It's so weird.
There's a time dilation from the stage to everything else. It's weird. Yeah, very stylized. So yeah, it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, the opening too reminded me of a video game called Double Dragon. You might have played it before, but the opening is essentially a couple street toughs going up to this girl in the street, punching her in the gut and putting her over shoulder, and they walk away. I'm like, they stole the opening to Double Dragon did. It's exactly like that.
Took from this, I guess. It's just an iconic leitmotif. Now, it's Ellen Aim is Diane Lane's character, the singer. Her manager is Rick Moranis. No idea who was going to be in this. He is the most one-dimensional character in the entire film, and that's saying a lot. He is. He's a major jackass. He gives everybody sass. And behind the scenes, which I read on IMDb, if you read it from the notes, he was a particular thorn in the side to Walter Hill. Incredibly rude, pushy, and I'm like, Rick Moranis? Because I was
had all that strange brew money.
Yeah, I was talking to April about it, and she's like, well, he's a comedian. Maybe he was just lippy. No, I said he was genuinely hostile and nasty to the director of this film, the co-creator of this film. So that really surprised me, because you think of Rick Moranis as just being very milquetoast. Here's a guy who was a widower. He quit the business to raise his kids. You thought he's probably a stand-up guy, and it sounds like he's Walter White. He's just not a very nice dude. So, sorry, Rick Moranis.
Young, cocky. Some people when they're young, they could be like, "Oh, I'm a rising star. Don't you know who I am?" Yeah,
he had that SCTV money, like you said.
And this was filmed at the same time, I assume, Ghostbusters would have been.
Yeah, it came out within weeks works with each other. Yeah,
but it wasn't like Ghostbusters was out and he was a big star when he was filming this. So to your point, it's like, okay, this is kind of weird. I did want to say though, on the fight with Tom Cody at the cafe it was a weird fight. Like the guy, like the group that comes in, there's another like gang called the Roadmasters. They ride cars, which I thought was interesting because they had the same suits. So it was like feeling like a warrior gang vibe. But they didn't continue that because there was only two gangs, the Bombers and the Roadmasters. Everybody else, there were no other gangs. But during the fight,
they go down that,
during the fight, so the guy breaks out a knife and he pulls out there, and then Tom Cody essentially slaps him and gets the knife. And he says, "You want to try it again?" He goes, "Sure, I'll try it again." And literally, the editing shows him slapping him like 18 times. I'm like,
you're right. Kind of reminded you of like Mission Impossible 2 in the John Woo with Tom Cruise flipping around swinging the gun. It was kind of that. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it how he snatched away the butterfly knife and if you're watching me, it's the knife, where you go.
Maybe we should take up the butterfly knife. That was everybody should do that.
I cut off the tip of my finger.
It always goes well. Tom Cody, Charlie, the way he dressed was very weird. He had a bad mustache, some weird sideburns which weren't grown in, and then he had basically this look with he always wore suspenders.
It was very ragamuffin. Looked like Oliver Twist.
And he had a button up like
with no sleeves.
With no sleeves. It was like
a jacket over it.
It was bad business. He didn't understand business casual, I guess.
Casual. So it was that's Phil Collins' other album, No Sleeves Required.
It's so weird. It's like I don't know what effort we're going into. And then he's supposed to like help out his sister, who's I writes to that. And then in her cafe, what does he do? He essentially breaks her front damn window doing the puzzle. That doesn't help us. We have no money.
Thanks, sis. And then does she own the cafe or she works there? I don't know. It seems like she owns it. But anyway, he's going. So Deborah Van Valkenburg is the sister trying to talk Eddie and the Cruisers, and I'm just going to call them by whatever the hell name I like. Eddie and the Cruisers to basically rescue Diane Lane and their ex-lovers. That was his childhood sweetheart. He's like, nah. Even though he wrote. Deborah Van Valkenburg got in there by writing him a letter because he lives in one of the other districts and he came home, but then doesn't want to do the thing that she asked him to come home for. But whatever. Obviously, he gets convinced. He's in a bar drinking. He meets Amy Madigan, who's also ex-military and just a very thinly veiled lesbian, early 80s lesbian stereotype.
Yeah,
because she says,
what was her name? It was
like it was another one word. It was like stock or bill or tough or something. Rick Moranis calls her Butch. He calls her Butch.
Her name was McCoy.
There you go. Yeah, Bones. We'll just call her Bones. So anyway, Rick Moranis, being a super dick, comes around and was like, "Hey, Eddie and the Cruisers, rescue Diane Lane." He's like, "Fine, but Amy Madigan's coming with me." And he's like, "No, I don't want to Butch. What's in this?" He's just extraordinarily obnoxious. But anyway, it ends up that the three of them get in the then stolen car. They drive to the Battery, where they end up, of course, rescuing Diane Lane, and then it turns into the Warriors because they have to get back home again.
Yes. I want to touch on one part you missed, Charlie, which was at the bar where she and Cody meet, essentially, we are introduced to Bill Paxton with a dude who
the black tooth.
Yeah, and then McCoy punches him and says, What do you want to drink? And I'm like, this is weird.
And it was Bill Paxton before Alien. So this is and at the same time as Terminator, which was the first, because he was one of the he was one of the three punks. The other two punks were actor Brian Thompson, who's been in a million things, including Star Trek, Buffy. The third guy, Rick Rossman, who was also in this film. He was the other cop, because there were two cops. So there's black cop and a white cop. Black cop was the black dude from Poltergeist.
And the white cop was the love interest in Roxanne that Steve Martin was talking through.
Well, yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Rick Rossman.
Yeah, he was in Roxanne.
Yeah. Right, but he was one of the other, as I just said, he was one of the other toughs in Terminator. So it's a lot of this was like a who's who of all the same dudes from the same
so many
agent.
people in this movie.
Like, the agent who helped cast this was like, all right, you got 50 of my people in there. He's the guy who got paid. That's where the $8 million went, went to the agent who repped all these people because I think it was all the same. So anyway, yeah. So my next, so they do the big rescue. There's explosions.
But Charlie, we have to go into the elephant in the room. So Tom Cody needs something to put him apart. And what is that? A .22 pistol that apparently has the powers of explosion. And like this is a special thing.
It's like G.I. Joe, right? Like you can, with a handgun, you can shoot down, or a Rattler, shoot down a Sky Striker.
Apparently, and there was like in this, anytime he fired it. So I mean, they're going in there, and so Tom Cody's kind of essentially like a sniper on the rifle, where McCoy's going in, breaking in to break the girl out. Which I'm like, so she's an army of one. Well, she said she was a soldier, so she kept on bringing that up.
Yeah, they were both soldiers, so they said they were soldiers, which is very generic. But yeah, he was obviously he was a sniper of some kind. But yeah, this rifle he has. So all, like apparently street toughs do, all they do to pass their time is ride their bikes back and forth in an alleyway and do wheelies. Yep. And so while they're doing this, Eddie and the Cruisers is shooting them, making them blow up. It's spectacular. But we still obviously haven't gotten, the big third act fight is clearly going to be a bigger confrontation, but we're not there yet.
No,
so
and there is one last confrontation before they leave. When they leave, Willem Dafoe comes out in the middle of these fires. He basically says, he sees Tom Cody, and Tom goes, "Well, I got the gun." And I'm like, "Great," but Willem Dafoe looks like a cobra, Charlie. He has got the hair like that.
I know he was, yeah.
His uniform, his outfit, I called it a reverse Zardoz because it's like full down below, but he's got his open shoulders and it looks like a tank top.
with no shirt. Yeah, exactly. So he's got look. And it looks like it was rubber or plastic or something like that. So we get into they're getting home. They have to ditch the car, and it gets a little fuzzy for me at this point. But they end up on a bus with. No, okay. Something
they
before
ditch
the bus?
the car. They're moving on. They end up needing a place to stay for the night, so they go back to Tom's sister's apartment. They go there, then they come back and like, okay, we gotta figure out. No, actually, that's before. They go off
Hold on. Yeah, like I said, they end up on the bus, and this is where things are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They end up on a bus with 4 black singers. Kind of their knockoff of either the Temptations, the Four Tops. But this is what I love. Now, I saw actor Grand Bush, his name in the credits. He is the black Secret Service agent in the black FBI guy in Die Hard. You have Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson. He's the black dude. And he's been in a lot of other stuff. He was in not Walker, Texas Ranger, some show of that. Oh, no, he was in Renegade, which April and I watched an episode of recently
with Lorenzo Lamas.
Yeah, we saw a promo for it in the Grand Bush. But the other one of the black singers, this blew my mind, Robert Townsend.
Yeah,
of one of
before Hollywood Shuffle came out.
It was a couple of years before that. But one of my favorite movies growing up was an adaptation of the Temptation story by Robert Townsend called The Five Heartbeats. I've got it on disc. I have always loved the soundtrack. This was potentially the first thing he ever did, but he had no speaking role. He didn't get a credit like Grand Bush. And then he had another guys, and they had some very generic Motown sounding kind of songs, but then they turn into the bit. They have a great performance at the end, but we're going to talk about when we get there.
My favorite line so far of this movie, Charlie, is when McCoy, she's the one that essentially rescues Ellen. She says when she shoots one guy and then she's about to leave, she goes, "Guys, it's been a slice." I'm like, what is that line? It's so weird. God. So weird. It's funny as they're walking down the street trying to get to the bus, they look and they see like MTV is apparently a thing back then. We get a video of Sorcerer. It's Ellen Ames singing Sorcerer, which was a song by Stevie Nicks.
Of course.
So weird. God. So weird.
I love you. I'm reading your notes. I love them. Yeah. The caps with the pantaloons. So anyway, they're making their way back home. I think they finally get back to the district, which I'm forgetting which district we're in. And it's going to be showdown. Now, Raven goes ahead and he's talking to Poltergeist guy and Rick Rossovich. He says, "Look, give me Tom Cody and I'll walk away. We're all good." And the guy says, "Well, I'll think about it." And then Cody's homie says, "Look, you got to get out of here because this guy's coming for you. They're going to kill you. And Cody does the Tom Petty, I won't back down. I'm sticking around. So Raven shows up. Does he show up by himself? No, he brings every friggin'. But first of all, Tom Cody managed to not kill all the bikers, which how many of them are there? I mean, he blew a bunch of them up, but there are 50,000 of them left.
A billion of them.
They breed
did
like
we already
cockroaches.
go over how Tom Cody and his girl gets back together, Charlie?
Yeah, he comes in. So anyway, the whole deal was Rick Moranis had offered Eddie and the Cruisers like $10,000 to rescue, and then he was going to give 10% to Amy Madigan. Yep. And so so at the end, Rick Moranis hands him the 10 grand, and Eddie and the Cruisers takes 9 of it and tosses it back, says, here's the 1,000 that I owe Amy Madigan. I'm out of here. And Ellen chases him out, and she says, why did you blah, blah, blah? And it's raining, and then they start making out, and then they bang. And it was like, oh, you
just solved it all.
You can't feel bad for Rick Moranis because he's being such a dick. He's Billy Zane in Titanic in this movie. He's such a jackass.
Exactly. So things go awry. So she wants him to leave. He says he's going to, but he doesn't. And so when he's about to leave,
his ground.
to basically stop Ellen Aim from stopping him.
This was so bad.
He punches her and
he knocks her ass out.
Can't punch Mandy Moore. I mean, by the way, I didn't mention this, but Diane Lane looks exactly like Mandy Moore.
Big time.
That's why I see it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, with a frizzier wig. There's no doubt about it. So, okay, we're getting into the third act. Raven shows up with his sidekick, and it appears to just be the two of them. But then snap a finger, and the other 50,000 bikers show up. All the cops are armed. It's going to be a massive shootout. But no, it's going to be Tom Cody and the Green Goblin, and it's pickaxe fight time. Holy shit. It is, yeah. So we get a good 5 minutes of questionably choreographed pickaxe fighting there. But it's almost like a lightsaber duel because you get the occasional punch in or a kick or a block or something. So again, there is some fight choreography of its time potentially. Cause it's not to your point. It's not like John Wick, which I know you enjoy very much, or, any kind of anything martial arts related. It's just two slugs beating the crap out of each other.
It doesn't go well, and it doesn't go well for Raven, of course. So then he's defeated on the ground. Tom Cody does the right thing. He walks away, lets him go. Of course, it doesn't go away. Old Raven pulls his hijinks and goes after him, and they end up in a battle where they're landing on every motorcycle.
Right. Oh yeah, you're right. Just tossing each other back and forth. And I think there's a big shootout at the end, and of course the bad guys are driven away. And I'm drawing a blank. Does Raven?
The town folk all arrive in mass,
right? And they all have guns. Everybody's got guns. This is not New York. It's Texas. Everybody's got guns. And so there's a big shootout. So the town folk.
Well, really, no battle, no guns were involved. No? At the end, they just held the guns at them, and the guy, the second in command of Raven, essentially puts him back on the bike. And that gentleman, Charlie, if you remember the Clue movie, that guy played Mr. Body. I don't know what else he was in. He was Mr. Body in Clue, and they drive away. They drive away, and I guess they won't do anything bad again.
They learn their lesson. They're going to go back, and they're going to go back. They're going back to the battery, and they're going to build a library. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I did like Tom's chosen attire for battling, though. He wore corduroy pants with suspenders, and once again, sleeves.
Corduroys are very durable.
Sleeves cut off. Yeah.
Yes, it's good stuff. So, so then we get to the end, and it's going to be exactly what you expect. But of course there's going to be another concert. And when we get into the concert, this is where we get my favorite part. We get the four black guys, the Temptations knockout. I'll say the Four Tops, because there was 4 of them. There were 5 Temptations. There were 4 of these guys. They perform one of my favorite songs from the 80s, Dan Hartman's I Can Dream About You. But they're 4 black guys, and Dan Hartman could not obviously be more of a honky. So you're hearing him singing this.
I don't think Dan Hartman had that choreography, though.
No, because you're right. He said like moving sidewalks, and they're moonwalking when they're saying that. Which again, so that's 80s versus 80s and Ellen Aim, but everybody else lives in the 50s. This is this is kind of like in the nexus of realities, maybe like within like the Marvel universe. Like this takes place in Chronopolis. Got it. Chronopolis, the land ruled by Kang. That's where this takes place. That's why all the time periods intersect.
Correct. Yeah.
You got it.
So we had that song, but then the showstopper end song is called Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young. And this song is totally a total eclipse of the heart knockoff. It goes everywhere. Charlie, I had to look at the lyrics. Oh my goodness. I've got a dream about an angel on the beach and the perfect waves are starting to come. His hair is flying out in ribbons of gold. His touch has got the power to stun. I've got a dream about an angel in the forest, enchanted by the edge of a lake. His body's flowing in the jewels of light and the earth below him starts to shake.
My God. And you know what? We're not going to spoil the rest. At the end, as expected, Tom Cody is going to ride off into the sunset. McCoy is going to come with him. He tells Rick Moranis, hey, you know what? Rick Moranis says, I'm not going to stand in the way if you and Diane Lane want to get together. He's like, she's better off with you, blah, blah, blah. And then Diane Lane comes up and says, I still want you to come with me. And she's like, what am I going to do? Carry your guitars or something? Like, he's like really playing. He's a tough guy. He's playing it off. But he says, hey, if you ever need me, I'll be around.
And then
he and McCoy, send me a postcard. He and McCoy get in the stolen car. Did they get the same stolen car back? Did they like send somebody to get it?
Yeah, I believe they have the same car. Yeah.
So they jump in and they're like, hey, it's like the end of Blazing Saddles. Nowhere special. I've always wanted to go there.
Rolling credits. There we are. Oh my goodness. This is quite the movie, Charlie.
I will absolutely purchase this film because I will watch it just for a giggle. I have a little tradition, and our mutual friend Missy, friend of the show and frequent contributor, often when I'm in a hotel room, I'll message her and I said, hey, give me a stupid movie to watch. I need to unwind because I'm on the road. And I'll watch something moronic. This will now be added to the rotation for the future. Boom. Love it.
There you go.
Love it.
But just to let you know, like I said, there were supposed to be 3 of these films, did not go well, did not perform.
Lord.
And so apparently there was a movement to make a sequel that was not vetted by the studios. No one had the rights. So they essentially made a spiritual sequel called Road to Hell, where it included both Michael Pere and Rebecca von Valkenburg.
Deborah Van Valkenburg, the sister.
Correct. And it's essentially a sequel many years ahead where apparently Ellen Aim did have a child and Ellen died and now her daughter's following her footsteps, but Tom never knew.
But it's Tom's daughter. You didn't mention that. I assume it's what's in.
Well, they had a kid. Yeah. Now his daughter is basically becoming a rock star, but she did not know Tom, or Tom wasn't involved in her life.
Right.
So apparently he's being called back to help her. We don't know who's after again. Maybe it's Raven's kids. And it's like,
we don't, is that like Baby's kids?
Sure. Potato Head kids. I don't know.
But what was I going to say? Oh, I'm drawing a total blank.
This trailer is great. Lots of great green screen.
This trailer there's green screen throughout, except when you see her the girl on stage. No,
or when he's walking down the real streets of Chicago, they have that with a real.
Oh, I know. I think they shot. It looked like it was shot in Vegas because it kind of had a Vegas vibe. They were out in the desert. But the Road to Hell, what that springs for me is in Eddie and the Cruisers. If you watch that film, at the end of it, Eddie and the Cruisers' final album when he disappears was called A Season in Hell. See the connection? Michael Pere. Yep. I know. Yeah. I love Michael Pere. Did not go on to have much of a success.
He looks good still.
Yeah. He was in a little bit here, a little bit there, but really never took off. But classic tough guy. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Eddie and the Cruisers, and then Tom Cody. Good stuff. So
we'll see. It's a shame that this didn't do well. Obviously, I kind of can tell why it didn't well. The acting wasn't good. The script didn't make a lot of sense. It was a tight 90, so it doesn't take up too much of your time, which is fine. Yeah. And there's a soundtrack, which was of the 80s. When you had a movie, the soundtracks were typically big, and it did have that one standout song. The rest of the songs, we'll see.
You're right. Yeah, we had the first song and the last song, and then the Dan Hartman song, and the rest of it. I was saying on the soundtrack, the one of the artists, his name is Rye. Is it Kudner? And he was part of that Asbury Park, Jersey Shore Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, Southside Johnny, kind of that late 70s or early 80s blast, I think, unless I'm getting it wrong. At me on X if I'm wrong.
He was like a lifelong musician, so probably. And the song in this that he performed on stage, because they I guess had a house band for Raven's
right, they had a house band in the Battery. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he did the song "One Bad Stud," which just came off a little weird, to be honest.
I don't know what was bad about it and kind of made me feel uncomfortable. But anyway, this movie, I would say on a scale of appreciating it ironically, 10. Ironic 10.
I'll give this movie a 4 out of 10, and one I'm giving it credit for having some heart.
Yes, a lot of heart. Bonnie Tyler's heart.
Yes.
Shape of the Heart. Sideways Heart. Anyway,
little eclipse of that heart.
That was fun. But again, available for rental or purchase across Amazon, Fandango, Vudu, what have you. I would recommend it. It's fun. And yeah, I enjoyed doing this. We should do more of this kind of stuff. I'd like this as kind of a go-to. Let's watch an old movie and just tear it up. But let's do it in the spirit of fun. Let's not get too serious. This was perfect for that. So, all right. Absolutely. Well, with that is the end of the program. Todd, where do people find you out there?
They can follow me on Twitter. I'm just gonna keep calling that. On Twitter at @TOxtra. It is the time of sports. Getting into that, having a lot of fun, a lot of video games going on. So I'm talking about that and just enjoying the senior year of my son. So I'm going to probably have a lot of pictures to share because that's a once in a lifetime experience.
Good deal. All right. Well, I am also over on X Twitter. I'm at the C3. Go ahead and spell it out. I spend a decent amount of time there, but also a lot of my time is dedicated to the USS Grand Petoskey. That is a chapter of the International Star Trek fan club that my wife and I run. We're here in West Michigan. We're one of the biggest chapters in the world. We're very, very active on our Discord. We're also super active in our community. We just did a tabletop gaming show here in Grand Rapids where we raised $200 for Make-A-Wish Michigan, which is our chosen charity, which I do in the name of my late son. You can find us at that website if you'd like to interact here in West Michigan, but I also run Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada, and we are always looking for great new trekkers to do great new trekking stuff. So drop us a note. And with that, I'm going to tell you, as always, first of all, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Guys, it's been a slice.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.